Well, joining us now from the Dadaab camp is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Antonio Guterres, who's been visiting the camp. Antonio Guterres, these were the sorts of pictures we thought we would never see again in the Horn of Africa. You've had a chance to look around the camp. What's your assessment now of how bad things are?
I have no doubt that in today's world, Somalia corresponds to the worst humanitarian disaster. And I have never seen in any refugee camp people coming in such desperate conditions. Many malnourished children, 50% of those arriving in Ethiopia, 40% of those arriving in Kenya, people with diseases, people exhausted by 10, 15 days walking. I saw a mother that had lost 3 of her children on the way. It's indeed a desperate situation, and I appeal to the international community for massive support to the Somali refugees, to the people that is hosting them here in Kenya and in other neighboring countries, and to all those that, as you said, are affected by drought in this part of the world.
Mr. Guterres, the pictures that we're seeing on our TV screens are heart-wrenching, to say the least. How prepared was the UN to deal with this crisis? Was it something you predicted, or was it just something that overwhelmed you and other agencies?
I think we are all overwhelmed. If you take into account that more than 50,000 Somalis left the country last month, it is clear that UN agencies, NGOs, states are all overwhelmed by the dimension of this crisis. But we are reacting, we are scaling up, we are coordinating work with all other partners in order to be able to respond to this crisis and to provide to these people that is suffering so much the minimum that they really need. But of course we cannot do it without massive support from the international community.
The UN has been calling for more aid to be delivered to people inside Somalia, but perhaps that would involve talking with the Islamist fighting group Al-Shabaab, who controls large parts of the country. They've been branded a terror group by the US. Are you prepared to talk to Al-Shabaab? Is this part of doing business for the UN?
I think that to deliver aid inside Somalia is at the present moment a very important priority. When we see the people coming here in such desperate conditions, it would be much better if they could have been supported inside the country. So I think it's necessary that all the agents of the conflict and the whole of the international community does everything in the next few weeks in order to create the conditions for massive humanitarian aid to be distributed inside the country. Some areas are controlled by Shabaab, some areas are controlled by transitional federal government or other groups. It doesn't matter. What matters is the people that is suffering and the need to support them.
Just a final thought from you, Mr. Guterres. This camp where you are now was built to hold 90,000 people. It's now holding 4 times that. Do you think the situation's likely to get worse as more refugees pour in from Somalia?
Yes, we hope that we will be authorized by the Kenyan government to expand the camp. There are areas that have been selected, agreed with the local community, that have inclusive infrastructure. So there is a lot that can be done to improve the conditions of the people here if you are allowed to do so. And at the same time, in those that have settled in the outskirts without, I would say, an orderly presence from ourselves or the local authorities, we now made an agreement with the local community that will allow us to work there and to create a better layout to make sure that people who live in better conditions, that services can be better provided to them.
All right, Antonio Guterres, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.